Hey there, this is James Davis from dailyfantasysportsrankings.com, and today I'm going to walk you through using our new NFL Player Lab. So you can see I have the projections for Week 1 fired up right now, so if you're watching this before Week 1, let's do this thing. If you're watching this after the fact, hopefully these projections crushed it and we don't have egg on our face, but either way, we stand behind them. A lot of work has gone into them, and a lot of work has gone into this new tool, so let's get right into it. So on a high level, the Player Lab does what our lineup optimizer does, but it does it in a more advanced fashion. So fundamentally what it does is allows you to filter your player pool based on what kind of contest you're playing and create optimal lineups based on the player pool that you create. So you can always just start with the basic player pool that we have here, click the calculate button, and go from there. So these are, as of this moment, the optimal lineups for Week 1, subject to change. Don't play them just yet. But you can also go up here and start filtering. So let's walk you through the various filters that we offer. So you'll notice right away we have different positional filters on the top. So each position has a very robust set of filters that you can pick from week to week. And we notice that the projection data just got updated. If you notice that, you can always click reload page. I won't be doing that for the purposes of this demonstration, but we will continue on with the filters. But yeah, so each position has multiple different ways to filter guys based on the safety of the contest that you're involved in, potential upside for the week, and different things that you might want to just do a little bit of study on and see if you can come up with the trends and unlock the code for whatever contest you're playing in. You go through and you can see them all. Some have more than others. Obviously kickers aren't quite as robust or don't possess quite as robust a data set as wide receivers or running backs, and projecting a defense is quite a bit different than projecting a quarterback, so it allows you to do quite a bit on that end. Right below that we have the various different slates. Pretty self-explanatory. If you're playing in a Thursday to Monday slate, helps to have all the available players, but if you're playing in, like, say, the 4 p.m. only slate, you probably only want to look at the guys in the 4 p.m. only. So just for your ease of use, that's the fastest way that you can filter the different slates. And then from there we get into the exciting stuff. So we'll come back to the filters in a second, but let's talk about the data table for starters. The data table is just like one you'll see in many different places. It has all the player names, it has a bunch of different headers. There is a side scrolling here just because we offer so much data that you can comb through on a week-to-week basis. If you're confused about any different stat that's on here, and we offer a lot of stats that simply aren't covered in a lot of places, so you might find some of them a little bit confusing, you simply hover over the column header and it will explain what you're looking at. So, for instance, in the opponent thing, this says defense versus the pass. So we see Dak Prescott has quite a good matchup against the Giants. And then this is one that we offer that I don't see in a lot of places, really fundamental to DFS success, and that's the opponent's pace. So the number of strict offensive plays they allow per game and how that will impact things for you. So you can go along here, you'll see our Vegas data, what we call advanced stats. So this is stuff that we project, for instance, at quarterback, you see the team's percentage of touchdowns they get from passing, the team's percentage of yardage they get from passing, and then you can scroll over into more standard stats. So a guy's completion percentage or passing yards per game, interceptions per game, and so on. So yeah, you can look at their stats and you can do some filtering from there if you don't want to go the filters route. It'll also give you some of the name recognition tests, like you see Ryan Tannehill here and you're thinking to yourself, there's just no way I'm going to look at this guy's name in my lineup this week. You can exclude him. On the same token, maybe you want to create some Seattle stack lineups, so you just want to lock in Russell Westbrook or whatever you'd like to do. So yeah, you can lock, you can exclude right from this before you even getting into any calculating, and do some filtering that way. If you want to filter on a grander scale though, we can go up here to the high level filters. So the way we suggest using the filters is first by getting some familiarity with them and understanding why they're important and what they might mean for a given week. So obviously the Vegas data tends to start a lot of discussion in DFS football simply because Vegas spends such an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out what's going to happen in a given game and have such huge data sets at their disposal that they tend to actually be more reliable than any given pundit or any given person's gut. So we tend to trust that. Obviously high over-unders are better than low ones, but we aren't always going to be playing guys from high over-under games. However, if you want to, say, tap into huge upside for a given week, you might want to just turn this filter on, and only see guys that are in games with a high over-under. You can also determine in any given filter what that over-under means to you. So by clicking on the little gear sign there, you can not only find a bigger description of what the filter does, but you can actually set the the feature for yourself. So maybe you want to include the games that are just at 49 this week, and you want to knock it down to 47 and just increase your player pool there a little bit. No problem. That will all take care of itself just by clicking the save button. If you're confused about any of them, again, you can click on the gear sign, figure out what the data is set at and go from there. As you go through, you're probably, the biggest way you're going to use these filters is for answering the question of safety versus upside in a given week. So obviously if you're looking for safety, you might want to click on things like a high completion percentage. High completion percentage correlates with fewer interceptions and also a more stable fantasy performance from week to week. On the same token, if you're going for upside, you might want to go for high passing touchdowns per game. While Luck maybe wasn't the safest from week to week last year, he did have a few transcendent games, and obviously he's in a high over-under game, and you can start to get a sense for what sort of trends are emerging. Now you'll go through from position to position and kind of filter as you will. One of the things that I think is really important to keep an eye on is that you don't necessarily need to filter your player pool and then calculate from that filtered pool. So one of the valuable research ways to go through here is, so say you want a guy who gets a lot of rushing touchdowns per week, but you also want a game with high over-under, and then you see D'Angelo Williams is the only player that meets that criterion for week 1. Well, that's no problem. If you click to calculate right now, you might get an error message because there's only one running back that meets your player, so you don't get any lineups, right? So what you could do in that instance is you just lock D'Angelo Williams in and simply turn these filters off, and maybe you keep the one that is a little bit more inclusive, and then if you click calculate, you can go from there, right? So then you start generating these optimal lineups, you start seeing how they shake out. But let's say you're creating your optimal lineup and you notice some red flags start to emerge. So say you see Julio Jones, you're just a little bit concerned from the injury thing for week 1. You read the practice news, it looks like he's going to play, but you're not quite sold yet. You could actually exclude him right from your results page. And likewise, maybe you think that you just want to go ahead and make Seattle, or Cincinnati rather, your defense that shows up everywhere. You can also lock from the results page as well. And then after you exclude a guy, so you locked Julio Jones out, you can recalculate right above and see who it spits out. And then you start getting, cheaper and wide receivers, spending a little bit more at quarterback and so on. So yeah, that's how you use your calculated lineups. You go up here, you can refilter, retoggle, you can reset things. You could do really quite a bit with this. Super powerful tool, especially powerful when it comes to creating big tournament lineups. Just going for high opponent's pace is going to be a very powerful thing for you. As the season continues, we have a lot of trends-based things like how many snaps a guy was getting in a recent game. You can of course filter for injuries if you're worried about playing guys that are in the questionable category. So yeah, a lot of ways you can filter this, a lot of ways you can tweak and toggle and create just the lineup for you based on the player pool that you'd like. So hopefully guys, this has been helpful for you as you explore the tool. If you have any questions, of course you can email me directly, james@dailyfantasysportsrankings.com. But hey, here's to a great football season, and hopefully if you're watching this after week 1, we've crushed it. If you're watching this before week 1, let's do this thing. Thanks guys.